Peace, peace, peace. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know, it's your boy Vic Slain Hope. Somebody asked me to make a video about like the process, like after my shooting, my arrest, and all the different things. So I'm gonna talk about the whole stuff, the whole 9 yards. I'm gonna talk about it. So before I get into that, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share if you like my content and wish to help me push it out there so others could see it. So, you know, when you in the gang, you kind of like, you join the gang, you know, and then you kind of like, it's a competition to get up the ranks, you know, to compete. And usually how you compete is you put in work, right? Put in work, you go do something, you indulge in crime. Oftentimes the way in which gang members build relationships, right, or build trust, it's like, I gotta see you commit a crime, kinda. Like, I gotta see you put in work. I gotta see you do something. I gotta have something over you. Like, I gotta witness you do something, you know. So it's kind of like, I gotta have something on you. I gotta see you do something. So it's kind of like, okay. You know, you could hold your own. You could do this. I seen you do that. And if worse come to worse, it's like, I seen you do certain things. You know, you got to get your hands dirty. So this is a form of kind of like building trust, right? So anyway, fast forward, my situation happened. And before I even get into that, like, I want to say that, like, you know, the first time you do something, like, for example, the first time you go on, you go rob somebody, right? It's like, you feel those butterflies, you feel that nervousness. And, you know, some people go online and say they never felt nothing, they was never nervous, they were never scared, they was never like, you know, dudes be fronting, right? You know, for I don't know who. Because, you know, at the end of the day, you know what you felt when the first time you did something. So the first time you do something, you usually feel this nervousness, you feel a lot of butterflies. It's almost like something is telling you, go back. It's almost like God is telling you, like, don't do this, go back. Don't do this, go back. And then it's like, we ignore that, right? And next thing you know is, boom, you did it one time. Now, around the second time you do it, you feel those butterflies and that nervousness and that rush, but it's not the same like the first time. And by the time you get around the third time, fourth time, the more you do it, the less you feel those butterflies, the less you feel that nervousness. Now you almost like feeling like a pro. It's almost like when you start a new job. When you start a new job, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what to expect. You don't know if you're going to like your coworkers. You don't know if you're going to like your boss. You don't know a lot of things, right? But then it becomes like clockwork. It's the same thing when you live in a life of crime in the streets. You become accustomed. You become used to it. So anyway, to the case, after the situation happened, like I said, like, I felt like that was the situation, that the only thing I could have did at the time. You know, at the time, and I say that at the time, right? So anyway, fast forward, I went to my friend's house after, and, you know, I'm just thinking about like what's gonna come after this, you know. And I'm not gonna sit here and say I wasn't nervous. You know, there's a lot of things going on. Is beef on the horizon behind this. Is a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of implications that this led to, right? So anyway, I got locked up 2 days later. I kind of like didn't know how I got locked up. I didn't know, like, you know, how the police knew it was me. I really didn't know, right? So anyway, I got locked up. They took me to central bookings. After central bookings, I knew I wasn't going home. Like, I remember the detective told me when we was in the elevator going down to central bookings. I remember before he even took me, he asked me, did I want anything? He was like, you want anything? You know what I'm saying? He was kind of like happy. He was hype, you know? He was like, yo, you want anything? Because, you know, you ain't going to be out for a while. So I was just looking at this dude like, I just want a water. So he bought me a water. And then I remember I was cuffed. And then he asked me, he was just like, he said, so before he was going to give me the water, I said, yo, you think you could take off the cuffs so I could drink the water? And then he started kind of like laughing or whatever. So he was like, oh, you're a funny guy, huh? I said, you know, it was worth a try. So anyway, so he gave me the water, whatever. He you know, he held the water, and I had to, you know, when I move, he'll stop, and then he'll come back, whatever. So he gave me the water to drink. And then when we was in the elevator, I remember I kept saying I didn't do it. I was just like, I don't know what's going on. Like, but before that, before they took me to central bookings, they took me to the precinct. So when they took me to the precinct, they basically asked me like, they showed me a picture of the person that got shot, and they asked me, do if I knew the person. So they first of all they came to my house and said they wanted me for questioning. So I was like, all right, cool. Then, I was just like, I went. They so called questioned me. They was like, do you know this person? I was like, yeah, I know them from the neighborhood. They was like, how you know them? I was like, I seen them around in the neighborhood. So they was like, when's the last time you seen them? I was just like, I was just like, probably like a week ago, whatever. So they're like, oh, well, this person is in the hospital, and somebody they told me somebody said you did it. And I was just like, I don't know who told you that. Like, I was like, I said, you told me you was here to question me about something. Now you telling me like you charge, like, you're accusing me basically. You're not questioning me, you're accusing me. So they was just like, oh no, we just asking you some questions or whatever. Why would somebody say you did it, whatever. So I was just like, look, I don't know. I said, obviously somebody got some malicious towards me, or whatever their motive is. You got to ask that person. So at the time, I didn't know it was the person. So I was just kind of like trying to think like, damn, who could have said something? Because there was other people that were there, so I was kind of like, didn't really know what to think at the moment. So I was just like, oh, So anyway, I kept saying like, look, I didn't know. They asked me if my nickname was such and such. And I was just like, yo, that used to be my nickname. They don't call me that no more. And I was like, I was telling them I used to bang. I don't bang anymore or whatever. I've been stopped banging. So they was just like, oh, well, you lied. They was like, you lied to us. So because you lied to us, they was like, yo, we're going to hit you with assault in the first. So, the precinct gives you certain charges, but then by the time you get to central bookings, they could change your charges. The DA could hit you with some other charges. So, and initially I just had assault in the first, reckless endangerment, and like I forgot the other charge. So I didn't really have no crazy charges. And then they was just like, yeah, man, like, cause you allowed us, now we're gonna hit you with these charges. So they hit me with some charges, and then I was on my way to central bookings. And then fast forward, after they gave me the water or whatever, he told me like, because I kept saying I didn't do it or whatever the case might be. So he was just like, oh, the truth is gonna come to light. Like the detective was just looking at me in my face, and I was like, it sure will. So anyway, I went to central bookings. I went through central bookings. Then when I immediately got arraigned, I remember the judge gave me a $50,000 bail, which that was kind of low for like the charge that I had. And I had an 18B lawyer at the time. An 18B lawyer is a lawyer that is like, they take free cases, but they also take paid cases. So, they take both. So, but I already had other open cases, which I had a legal aid. And me and my legal aid ended up becoming cool. She was a Nigerian sister from Far Rock. She was mad cool. But anyway, when I got this new case, they gave me an 18B lawyer, and the 18B lawyer was kind of like, he was an idiot. Like, he was just like, he came to see me, and he was just like, yo, you got a serious case. Like, he was just like, yo, this shit is mad serious. Like, he was just like, I don't know, man. So then when we went in front of the judge, and the judge said, we're going to give you $50,000 bail, he was kind of like, yo, that's low. That's low for your charge. He said, if they're offering you $50,000 bail, he said, that means they don't probably got a lot on you. So I was just like, word. So, now I'm thinking like, word. So he said, yo, we're not going to take that. We're going to wait because it's probably going to be lower the next time we come to court. Yo, so anyway, I should have took that $50,000 bill. But anyway, everything happened for a reason. And, I don't have no regrets. So anyway, we didn't take the $50,000 bill. So my legal aid ended up taking over all my cases. So she was just like, you good? Like, the dude went on his way. And then my other legal aid, she represented me on everything now. So she took over everything. And then once I went back to court, they put me on remand status. They took my bail. I was on remand status. Then they was waiting for the person to go to grand jury and testify. So they got 180 days, 144 hours, which is like 5 days. They got like 5 days to indict you. So when you get locked up and they hit you with charges, they have like 5 days, I believe, to indict you. So I sat there, I waited the 5 days. After the 5 days, the DA asked for an extension because the person that got shot needed more time, to come in. So they asked for more time, and then so it took like I don't know how long it took, but it took like about a month, I believe. So after like a month, you know, I guess the person went in, and then I was indicted. So I was indicted, and then now, like, because when you go to the grand jury basically decides if the charge is gonna stick or they not gonna stick, and you go home. So I was indicted, and then because usually they have like a speedy trial motion, right? So they have speedy trials, like they got to take you to trial within 6 months, and the grand jury has 144 hours, 5 days, kind of like 180 hours, 144 hours, something like that. Basically 5 days to indict you. And if they don't, again, like for certain situations, they could ask for extra time, but other than that, they need to do everything in a timely manner. So anyway, I got indicted. So now I'm sitting up. So now I'm just waiting for trial. So I sat up for 33 months, and the crazy thing is, out of all those 33 months, only 59 days was accountable to me. Like, and I didn't understand that. Like I was like, that's crazy. Like, cause they got 6 months to take you to trial. But sometimes your lawyer might ask for more time. Sometimes it's not the DA that asks for more time. Sometimes your own lawyer might say, "Oh, we need more time. We need more time." And when your lawyer asks for more time, that time does not count for the people. So, but I don't understand how I only got 59 days out of 33 months. It's outrageous. It's crazy. So, and the average case takes about 2 years and a half to go to 2 years to 2 years and a half to go to trial. So anyway, so that was just like the process, like now, like I don't got no bail. Then when they finally gave me bail, my bail was $250,000. You need like property to put up. You need like a whole bunch of signatures. You need to just come up, to come up with the money. So I didn't really, my family was acting kind of like funny, so I couldn't really get they didn't want to put up the crib. It's cool. Like, I don't expect them to, right? Like, at the end of the day, we get ourselves in situations, and then, like, we expect people that, like, we never really kind of, like, depended upon to kind of, like, be there for us. But it's also the moments in time where you realize who's really there for you. And another thing is, sometimes your family, like, once you're involved with the legal system, sometimes your family be looking at you like, nah, we don't want nothing to do with you. So anyway, my family, my aunt said she was going to try to see if she could put up the crib. I don't think she ever spoke to her husband or whatever. So I didn't end up getting that. By the time, like, my homies trying to get me a lawyer, it was kind of like my case was already a little advanced. And, the further advanced your case is, the more money the lawyer might ask for, require, because they got to go back and they got to look through a whole bunch of stuff. So I was charged with, so now after all of this, after I got indicted, now my indictment charges was different. It was like attempt murder in the second. It was like two counts of assault in the first, 2 counts of assault in the second, assault in the third. And it's crazy because attempt murder is like, you can't attempt to felony murder somebody, right? It's either you killed them or you didn't. But it's just crazy the way this shit work out. But anyway, assault in the first is like assault with a deadly weapon through risk of death. So you kind of like risk almost killing somebody. So that's basically what assault in the first is. I also had criminal possession of a weapon in the second. And criminal possession of a weapon in the second means that they didn't have to catch you with the firearm. It just means that at some point in time you possess the weapon. And being that somebody said I shot them, that's enough to say that, like, you had a weapon at some point in time. And even though it's like word of mouth, right? But somebody has a wound and they saying you did it, so it's just kind of like, it's like they saying this and you saying that, so it's like going back and forth, right? Word of mouth. But anyway, all somebody has to say is you had a weapon at a certain specific moment, and this is what, like, criminal possession of a weapon states. At some point in time, you possess the weapon, so they don't gotta recover it. Don't sit here and listen to these dudes when they tell you, like, they gotta get the gun. There's laws, there's penal codes that you don't even know they got, because we don't study the law. We don't understand it, right? And you only start understanding this when you start going to law library, when you start studying case law. That's when you really start to, like, get into, like, some of these laws. So anyway, that's what criminal possession in the second is. And this is why a lot of dudes that blow trial, they might beat their homicides, they might beat whatever action they did, but, like, it's very hard to get around a weapon. So, and that was my thing. So, like, when I was, I copped out in my trial proceedings. So, so criminal possession of a weapon. So another misconception that people have is that New York doesn't have a self-defense. New York does have a self-defense clause. It's just very hard to prove it. You need to go beyond a reasonable doubt to prove that whatever action that you took was justifiable. So, for example, there's justifiable shootings, right? There's justifiable stabbings, there's justifiable assaults, but you have to prove that, this was the only thing you could have done to defend yourself, in a moment. And and it's called justification, right? So it's a defense clause. So you can be justified in a shooting, but you would never be justified in possessing an illegal firearm. There's no way to justify that, because the gun states in the state of New York, I mean the gun laws in the state of New York, are just, you can't possess a firearm, right? In some states you can open carry, so you can justify like having a weapon, right? Because there's an open carry state, and then you could justify your homicide. You could justify shooting somebody. In Florida they have stand your ground. So a lot of states you can open carry, and some states you could conceal and carry. You just gotta let the officer know. So it's different laws. It changes by states. Like, for example, Gucci Man, right? He beat his case, right? Somebody broke into his house, right? And he ended up killing. That was a justifiable homicide, right? Like, I don't know the itty gritty details of his case, but I'm just telling you that, like, you can have a justifiable shooting. In New York, it's just way harder to prove because the gun laws are very strict in New York. So anyway, I was gonna go with the justification clause. I was trying to go with justification. I was gonna tweak my story a little bit, but at the end of the day, because the person came to my house, and the moment somebody leaves your house and you go after them, now you are the aggressor. So the state don't care. They don't care about, oh, somebody could have came to your house with a gun, like, but if they left and you followed them, then it changes. Like, you didn't have to follow them. You wasn't in danger no more. Even though you're still in danger, they don't understand that. They just looking at it like you're not in danger no more. So I had to kind of like tweak it a little bit. But anyway, that was my defense clause. And then once the phone call came out, when I was talking about I brought a gun and stuff like that, and I was telling people about, what to do with the gun and stuff like that, it just kind of like changed the balance in my case. After that, so that was basically like the process. And again, this is why a lot of people blow trial, because you can't justify having an illegal firearm in the state of New York. So 9 times out of 10, if you have a case and it's involving a firearm, all it means is at some point in time you had a firearm, unless you could really prove that you didn't have a firearm. Let's say, for example, there was a tussle. For example, let's say somebody else brought a gun, and they try to shoot you, and then there was a tussle, and the person ended up getting shot. You could beat that case, because that's just, that was justifiable. Like, you didn't really have the gun. Somebody else had it. Somebody else brought it to the scene. So you didn't really possess the weapon, So that's in the case where, but again, it's just they make it very hard for you to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this is the only thing you could have did to protect yourself. Another thing, in New York, somebody could break into your house, at least New York City. Somebody could break into your home and have a firearm, and you still don't have the right to, like, shoot them. Like, it's crazy. So you almost gotta be like, the person almost gotta like discharge the weapon or like shoot you, like, and then you shot him too, like, but it's just crazy how strenuous, like, and I forgot the word, but it's just crazy how much, like, you have to be in a dire need to defend yourself for the state to be like, all right, cool, you was justified. So that's kind of like the process. And I'm not gonna say I wasn't nervous. A lot of times when we have some of these situations, we nervous. A lot of times people be high. A lot of times people be on drugs. They because they don't want to feel nothing. They want to feel numb, right? Because they want to act like this is some natural shit to be doing. It's not no natural stuff. It's obviously it's not natural, because we are feeling something. We're feeling anxious. We're feeling scared. We're feeling nervous. We're feeling pressured. But a lot of times we feel like this is what we got to do, right? A lot of times we want that rank, and we want to move up, or we trying to build trust amongst the homies. So this is just the process of going from one place to another. And then I also mentioned the DNA. So when you get upstate, I was telling you about the DNA. Like, once you get convicted and you go upstate, they take your DNA. And once they put your DNA in this data bank or this database of crime, of whatever it is called. It's like, let's say if you committed other crimes and maybe they recovered your DNA and they don't know, they don't have a match. So what they usually do is when they recover DNA, they try to check in the system and see if there's a match. If there's not a match, then they kind of like, it still stays there. They don't just throw it away, but they just hold on to it. So sometimes it's like, for some people that want to be living a life of crime, some people have been doing crime since the 80s, right? We're 2021. I mean, that's like 40 years. Damn. I mean, that might not be that realistic, right? But 40 years of crime. But, you could have been doing crime since 2000. And then, like, maybe they got your DNA in some crime, but you never went upstate. So they never took your DNA. So sometimes before you even go upstate, sometimes in some cases, like in some rape cases, and somebody might say you did it, or you might be the prime suspect. In some of those cases, they might have they might be able to get your DNA. They might be able to ask for your DNA. I'm not so sure, but in some cases they might be able to ask your DNA before you even get convicted. But I know that once you get convicted, they take everybody's DNA. They take everybody's blood. They admitted to this database, and a lot of people was getting caught up with new charges. A lot of people was coming right back down because it's like, oh, bingo, we got the person that killed this person 5 years ago. We got the person that raped this person 8 years ago. Like, people was raping people. Maybe you tossed a condom. People just was doing all type of crazy shit. But yeah, like you never know. You broke into a crib. Maybe you left you're not a fingerprint, because sometimes, even with fingerprints, sometimes you could put your fingerprint on something, but because you never been locked up, the police don't have your fingerprints. So this is another thing why stop and frisk was so big, because it got people to just get locked up for little stuff. And then what they really wanted to do was just have everybody in the neighborhood on their database for the fingerprints. So, which is kind of like illegal in a way, right? Because it's like you were just locking up people for nothing, for not having ID, or for trespassing, or for loitering, taking them to the precinct just because you really wanted their fingerprints. Which is kind of like, it's illegal because it's like, yo, you're doing it to people that didn't do nothing, right? But at the same time, it was a tactic to, like, just in case these people do something, we have their fingerprints. So that's another thing. Now I hear what they're doing is with the eyes. They're now I heard when you get locked up, they scan your eyes, right? So like now the cameras, they pick up on your eyes. So it's a whole bunch. Technology is changing. A lot of people getting caught up, with these phones. They getting caught up with cameras looking at their eyes. They getting caught up to DNA. They getting caught up with a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, man, like there's a lot of people that didn't touch upstate, and like if you want to keep doing crime, man, like some of y'all gonna end up there, and then old stuff gonna come up. It happened to a few people I know. Like they went upstate. Once that DNA's in the system, they was like, oh, you being summoned to court, like, because you got another case. Some people, it also helped prove their innocence. Like there's some people that once their DNA was admitted, it was kind of like, all right, this person didn't do it. Like it's a lot of people that come home on those cases. The only thing is that once you blow trial, if you don't got money like that, you got to put in so much work for your own appeal. So it just be a lot with it, So some people it takes them like 15, 20 years just to work on their own appeal because they don't got money to get a lawyer. Some people, like, they just make enough noise that somebody starts looking into their case and decides to help them out. So it just be like a long battle to kind of like prove your innocence, once you get convicted. But it could be done. So the DNA thing is it could work against you, or it could work for you. And it has worked for some people. A lot of people have came home of DNA, right? And a lot of people are being rearrested because of their DNA. But that was just my little process. I'm going through the court system. I don't know if I left anything out that I remember, but yeah. And if I've said some misinformation, y'all could correct me, or y'all could ask me some questions in the comment section. But make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, and let's keep this rolling. Peace.